Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today we're going to be reviewing a hand from a $3,000 buy-in World Series of Poker event. We're playing 800, 1600, and we have King Queen offsuit with a 40 big blind stack. I'm definitely going to raise it up, and 2.5, 2.25 big blinds is perfectly fine and perfectly reasonable. Folds around to a loose aggressive kid with a big stack in the cutoff who makes it 9,000. So I made it 3,800, he made it 9,000. And back around to me, I now have to put in 5,000 to win a pot that's going to go to 18,000. So, do I think we can realize 35 or 40% equity from out of position with King Queen against a loose aggressive kid whose range is probably wider than normal? And I think the answer is just yes. You have to be very careful with the big offsuit hands when you raise and get 3-bet. If I had like King Jack here, I would probably just go ahead and fold. Maybe I should 4-bet bluff. Yeah, every once in a while. Ace Jack, I would probably still go ahead and call, but Ace 10, I would bluff or fold, one of the two. So you have to be very cautious with the big offsuit hands from out of position when you get 3-bet, which really does just show you the power of 3-betting, right? If you can make someone's King Queen feel pretty rough, then it's a pretty sweet play. Don't be afraid to 3-bet. So flop comes Queen 6-3. I'm going to check every flop to my opponent because the opponent should have all the aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack, etc. in his range, whereas I do not have quite as many of those unless I am slow playing a ton, but you do want to be 4-betting every once in a while, so you don't get to slow play a lot. If you're 4-bet your best hands, it means you don't flat with them. So our opponent has the range advantage here, so I want to check and let the opponent bet. So I check, but this time it goes check, check. Turn is the 8 of hearts. And now we have to ask ourselves, what are we trying to accomplish if I bet versus check, right? When it does go check, check on the flop, the opponent very likely has a marginal made hand or some random slow play with like pocket queens, which I block, so there's only one of those. Pocket sixes probably doesn't 3-bet pre-flop. Pocket threes, same story. So maybe I'm against ace, queen, aces, or kings, but it's kind of unlikely, right? Because you would think those would just bet small on the flop as they would do as the opponent should do with pretty much their whole range. That said, if you're looking at a spot where the opponent, in theory, should bet with their whole range, you'll find that some people, when they check, they only have the nuts, and some people, when they check, they only have marginal made hands. And if you can figure that out, then it makes your life easy. Because, like right here, if I know my opponent has king, queen, and worse all the time because he checks his marginal hands, and I can just value bet turn and river and be thrilled, right? But if I know my opponent always slow plays or only slow plays, aces, kings, pocket queens, then I can just check and, in theory, if he bets, I should just check fold, right? If he literally only checks a flop with the nuts. So it's very important to try to figure out what your opponents are doing, and if you do pay attention and play with the same players often enough, you can figure that thing out. I know a lot of you go to the same local casino on a regular basis, and you see the same people on a regular basis, right? Take notes on them, and a notepad on your phone, whatever, and figure out and keep track of the things that they do incorrectly, and then when you play with them, reference your notes, and then adjust, right? But in a random $3,000 buy-in World Series event, I don't know what my opponent's doing incorrectly or how they play specific hands, so we're flying blind, as you often will be when you're playing gigantic tournaments with lots and lots of people. So anyway, on the turn, should we bet or should we check? Obviously, we don't want a heart to come, but at the same time, I think if I bet, the opponent's going to call one time with all their marginal stuff and then fold their junk if they do have junk. Whereas if I check, given my opponent is loose and aggressive, I think they will take a stab at the pot every once in a while, which is exactly what I want, right? I have a very, very clear bluff catcher that may be good enough to value bet, right? It's like it's somewhere between a premium hand and a marginal hand, but it's definitely a good marginal hand or a bad premium hand. And especially against loose aggressive players, I typically play my bad premium hands as bluff catchers because loose aggressive people enjoy bluffing. So give them every opportunity. So I check, opponent bets 25K. So now the opponent bets bigger than the size of the pot. To be fair, pot's 22K. For all I know, the opponent's just betting pot in their mind. Don't look at this and think, oh my god, it's an overpot bet, I need to be deathly afraid. Unless your opponent never ever makes bets this size. So now you have to decide, should we call or should we jam? And I don't think there's that big of a difference between call and shove here, because if the opponent is bluffing, what bluffs make logical sense? Well, it's going to be the ace of hearts, right? Ace of hearts and king of hearts make logical sense. And if I jam and they fold, that's fine, right? We clean up our equity. And if I jam and they call, we just get it in good. The problem with jamming is that when I happen to be beat by the random slow plays, I lose all my money. And that's bad. So here you want to ask yourself, is this hand starting to get weird? And it kind of is a little bit. First off, our opponent checked behind on this queen 6-3 board that they should be betting very frequently. And now, if the opponent did have a marginal made hand, would they really blast it like this? I don't know, maybe, but probably not. And whenever I'm in this scenario where, like right here, if the opponent's going to bet the turn, it probably should not be all that big. I suppose if you play around with a GTO solver, it may tell you that there are some hands you do want to blast it with here, like your good hands and as well as some bluffs. So just the polarized range, but I don't think most people are doing that in-game today. When people take this line, I'm not going to say it's like always a bluff or always value, but it starts to weird me out a little bit to the point that I typically take a cautious line when I'm just like completely clueless what is going on, but I know whatever is going on is kind of bizarre. So should we fold? No, but at the same time, maybe there's some world we don't lose all of our money. Like say the river's a heart and I check and the opponent jams, we just fold. On this river though, we check if the opponent jams, we have an easy call. Goes check, check though, so I presume I win. But then the opponent shows up with pocket aces. I don't know why the opponent would not just bet the flop with aces and just get his money in. Seems pretty optimistic. That said, this probably is an okay hand to bet turn big with, either aces with the heart or without the heart. Because when it goes check, check on the flop, and then I check the turn, my range is very capped at marginal made hands and worse. And a lot of those do have a heart, like say I had king, queen with a king of hearts. Clearly I'm never folding. King, queen in general is never folding. Or pocket tens with the 10 of hearts. That's obviously never folding. So it is a good spot to bet big if you are going to play the hand this way. But I definitely think the opponent left, well, you see it in my stack, 36,000 on the river. That was a big mistake. The opponent very easily could have bet 36K. I would have called. It would have been unfortunate, but I would have called. And saving 36,000 is highly, highly valuable here because now we're just going to continue playing the tournament with a 25 big blind stack, whereas if we were on the other side of the coin, if I had the aces, the opponent would be in their car driving home. And poker is a reciprocal game if you think about it, right? Like we all, in theory, get the same cards long term. We all experience the same bad beats, the same good runs, the same bad runs. You may say, oh no, I'm unluckier than everybody. No, you're not. Sorry. You just have not put in the volume that is required for all the luck to even out. And to be fair, it does take a very, very, very long time for the luck to even out. This is why playing online poker is great, because you can play millions of hands, and the luck actually does even out over millions of hands. And when you think about poker like that, you realize that in situations where I stack my opponent, when I take all their money, but they don't stack me, I win in that scenario long term. And you're going to find that a lot of people mess up their big hands, and they also mess up their marginal hands. They either don't get full value out of their best hands, or they very often end up losing too much with their marginal hands. And if you can figure out how to just play those key spots better than your opponents, you will win more money than they do long term, allowing you to just chip up your bankroll all the time. So that's going to be it for today. Hope you enjoyed this hand. Good luck in your games. Have fun. Thanks to Poker News for letting me make this video for all of you. If you want to learn more from me, check out my site, pokercoaching.com. There we have tons and tons of interactive quizzes, kind of like this video, that you will enjoy. You can get a completely free trial over at pokercoaching.com. Have fun, and I'll talk to you next time.